It's all yours.
Thank you, Terri. I'm excited, too, to bring this tool out to the community. But before we started, I wanted to just take a brief minute. I think we all are aware that the FDA is much more focused on supplier management as a whole. In preparation for a future webinar, I had pulled the warning letters related to supplier management from January of 2012 through September of 2012. And as you can see from the slide I currently have on the screen, there have been 45 violations in warning letters this year alone, focused specifically on supplier management. And again, the FDA is being very, very specific that they want to see the evidence that in fact you have been evaluating and been making good decisions about your suppliers. And it's okay to use a risk-based approach, but you need to have some objective evidence to show that you've gone through it. The tool that I'm about to introduce will in fact give you an easy way, very user-friendly, for you to be able to provide that objective evidence. So this tool was developed in an Excel spreadsheet, and as you'll see here on the left-hand side of the tool, I've allowed a way for you to export from your inventory management, your approved supplier list, or your ERP system, however you're using it. You can actually export your list of suppliers, supplier numbers, type of materials provided, and just import that straight into the spreadsheet. It's a great way to just get it organized to begin with. Now, you'll see across the top that they've given a legend. All of the criteria that I've developed at this point are based on a 1, 2, 3 scale. Everything that we've listed is 1, 2, or 3. And that is the number that you actually enter into the tool. The tool itself will do the prioritization calculations for you. While this particular version is demonstrated with medical device, you can change the terminology to be pharmaceutical, biomedical. You can change the values so that they actually can fit specifically into your business. But I've tried to stay pretty generic as we've gone through here. So I think the first important piece to look at is this column G, where we identify the business relationship. You'll see the top one I have is a vendor. As I roll the mouse over the cell, it gives you a definition: suppliers or service providers used on a limited, non-strategic basis for additional capacity. Key supplier, that's the majority of the normal suppliers for commodity materials and standard services. Strategic suppliers are like single source or OEM or contract manufacturers. The business risk becomes much greater. And so as we go through and work through the tool, you'll see there's numbers here for product performance impact, the customer perception of quality for the product, the regulatory classification of the device, pharmaceutical annual spend. As you enter into the information, either a 1, 2, or 3, based on the criteria that I've identified, the actual business relationship is calculated. So, for example, in row 7, you see that there's a 1 for product performance impact, 1 for customer perception of quality, 1 for regulatory classification. And if you look at the table here, under total risk, you'll see if it's 3 or less, then that should be classified as a vendor. And that's exactly what we have here. A key supplier would have a number in this column that is either 3 to 6, and anything greater than a 6 is a strategic supplier. So the way this would work is if we were to change, and let's say we were evaluating a supplier here where the product performance impact had an impact on a potential impact on a procedure or a delay. So we're going to classify that now as a 2, and when we do that, you'll note that this supplier has now changed from being just a vendor to a key supplier. There's more criticality to the actual management of the supplier itself. So that's the first part of the tool that helps you to determine what type of business relationship are you working with. The other information that I've put into this tool that helps you make good decisions is to look at how much money do you spend with them as a percentage of total spend for the commodity or the item. Is it a regulated material or service? And so that has different risks. Quality management system, do they have one? How many nonconformances each year? And the seriousness of those nonconformances. Then the time since the last assessment. So each one of these fields, again, has a number 1, 2, or 3, and the algorithm that's been developed will assign it a number based on the calculation itself. So you can see here in line 7, the calculation came to a 216, which says that you should do a quote based on risk. This particular supplier has a pretty high risk, and you should do a full assessment, including the determination of whether you need to do an audit. So what drives that? Again, you can look at the quality management system. Let's say that they let's say that we have in quality management system, we're going to change this number to a 2. We're going to change this number to a 1. And you can see that the number here for the final result has increased to 432. If we modify this and this particular supplier has a lower risk, we've recently worked with them, we've had very few nonconformances, we've made them now a vendor instead of a key supplier. As you look across the tool, you see that there's really no action to take because you've been working pretty well with them. So the tool is very easy, very simple to use. What you'll see that I've put in here is one page that actually gives you definitions for every single cell. So wherever there's an algorithm or a calculation that's done with conditional formatting, it's actually called out, aligned, defined in great detail within this spreadsheet. I've done some basic verification where I've actually gone through and established some key criteria of what I'm trying to verify within the spreadsheet to make sure that it works as designed. And so you'll have that information. Additionally, I've done some basic validation to be able to demonstrate that the spreadsheet works as intended. So I've set up various scenarios. Of course, you all know that you have to validate it for your own intended use. Bottom line, nobody can really afford to physically audit every single supplier they have. The key to success here is to be sure that you have evaluated your suppliers, that you're monitoring them. Once a year, you should go through this spreadsheet, reevaluate each of your suppliers. I usually like to recommend it be done just before budget time so that you can be sure that you've actually budgeted the money for those suppliers that you do need to make personal visits to. It's a very simple tool, easy for you to edit and to customize to your own use. What do you think, Terri?
Oh, I think it's great. Thank you for giving us this demonstration today, Chris. It's amazing what you've put together through your experience and what you've had to go through to get to this point, and that you're able to share it with everyone. We thank you so much for your time today, Chris.
You're most welcome. Have a great rest of the afternoon.